This video is on adverbs. The last video that I shared with you was about adjectives, and a lot of times people can get adjectives and adverbs confused. So hopefully after the examples from this video, you'll have a better idea of the difference between adverbs and adjectives. So an adverb tells where, when, why, how often, or how much. So adverbs often end in the letters ly. So some examples here: quickly, softly, fearfully. But they also include words like quite, very, often. So there's so many different adverbs that it would be impossible for me to explain all of them to you. But I will show you the different ways that adverbs are used. So two of the ways, and this first way is probably the most common way that you would think about using an adverb, is to modify or describe a verb. In other words, adverbs go with verbs. Right? And that's the biggest difference between an adverb and an adjective. Adjectives go with nouns, but adverbs go with verbs. So you could have something that was softly flowing, right? Flowing is the verb, softly is the adverb. Or you could turn that around. You could change the order of those words and you could say flowing softly. Now you could also have adverbs with adverbs, right? Adverbs could modify another adverb. So you could have two adverbs in a row, like we have here, whispering very quietly. So both very and quietly are adverbs. Now those first two ways aren't the only two ways. There's actually a third way that we can use adverbs. But let me just review the first two ways and then we'll look at the third way, because I think that the third way can be confusing sometimes, and that's okay, right? It's okay not to get it correct the first time that you try something. So number one, right, first way would be to use adverbs with verbs. So we have three examples, and the first two use the same adverb, right? I'm using quickly, right? So you could say, they will drive home quickly, or they will quickly drive home. We just change the order of the words a little bit, but both ways work. And of course we're talking about how they will drive, right? They will drive home how? Quickly. We could also explain how someone spoke. She spoke softly. So remember, the word spoke is a verb, right? So that's probably the most common way that we use adverbs, is with verbs. Number two, you could have two adverbs. You could use adverbs with adverbs. So in the first example, he spoke very slowly. Okay? So we're talking about how he spoke. We could just say he spoke slowly, but we want to really express just how slowly he spoke. Right? So we're taking that action and we're exaggerating it. Right? So he spoke very slowly. Two adverbs in a row. Second example, the day passed too quickly. And when we look at the word too, notice how it's spelled. It's spelled T-O-O. So when you see the word T-O-O, too, that is an adverb. If you see the word T-O, too, that too, T-O, we're talking about a preposition. I will share a video later in this spelling and grammar series about prepositions. So just remember that when you see T-O-O, you have an adverb. So the day passed, right? That verb passed, right? It passed too quickly. Two adverbs in a row, too and quickly. Okay. Now this third way is to use adverbs with adjectives. All right. So first example, their arrival will be very late. So late is the adjective, and very, we already know from before, is an adverb. So when we're trying to figure out what late is, right? I mean, remember that we're talking about their arrival. So an arrival is a thing, it's a noun, right? So you can have an adverb with an adjective, right? And if you can figure out that the word late, right, that's describing the arrival, right? That's describing the thing, the arrival. That's your adjective. And then your adverb is going to come in front of that adjective. So not just late, very late. Their arrival will be very late. The car is not very fast. I mean, we could just say the car is not fast, and then all we would have in that sentence would be the adjective fast to describe the car. But we don't. We're saying the car is not very fast. So not very fast, and very is the adverb. Last example here, the child is extremely tall. Right? The child's being described as tall, but not just tall, extremely tall. And extremely is the adverb. All right, I've also created a chart to talk about some more adverbs. So some of them are adverbs that might be new, or maybe you haven't seen them before, or maybe they can be used in more than one way. And they're used fairly often, in my opinion. So let's just look at one at a time here. So we have the first one, annually. So annually means every year. And it comes from the root word annual. So if you want to know more about root words, prefixes and suffixes, there was a video earlier on in this series, and I will leave a link to it. I'll add a link when I share this video, so you can go to it quickly if you'd like. So some example sentences here using the adverb annually. There's one example. We attend the Christmas party annually. So we don't just attend, right? That verb attend is being explained, right? How we're explaining how we attend. We attend annually, and then annually is the adverb. Another adverb is exactly. So this adverb explains having a specific amount of something, or it is used to explain that something is just as it should be. You know how you would expect something to go a certain way. You know, you hope that the party is going to go just as you would hope that it would go, right? You hope it will be exactly as it should be. That's the other way that we could use the adverb, exactly. So exactly comes from the root word exact. Some sentences here, right? So it could be a specific amount, right? So this first sentence is specific amount. I counted exactly 563 dimes. It'd be a long time counting dimes. But the adverb here is exactly. So you didn't just count, you counted exactly. And then when you're thinking about something that is just as it should be, you could say to somebody, you are exactly right with your answer. And you notice right is an adjective, right? So you're not just right, you're exactly right. Right? So remember that adverbs can go with adjectives, right? That third way that we don't always think of, and we don't always see it, but they can be used that way. Okay, rarely. It means not often, right? So it comes from the root word rare. So all we're doing here is rarely just has ly at the end, and the ly is what's called a suffix. And as I mentioned before, check out my earlier video for more information. And actually there's another video just on suffixes, so you could check that out as well, and I'll leave a link for that video too. Alright, examples here. My wife is rarely wrong, right? She is rarely wrong. So she's being described, right? So you can see how we're really emphasizing how rarely she makes a mistake, right? She's rarely wrong. Next example, I rarely travel outside of Canada. So that's like saying I don't travel. In fact, I rarely travel. I rarely travel there. I rarely travel outside of Canada. So in the first example, right, you could say, you know, the wife is being described as rarely wrong. So rarely is going with the adjective wrong, right? And in the second example, rarely is going with a verb. Rarely travel, and travel's a verb. Okay. Second part of my chart here. Let's look at the first one at the top here, really. So this adverb can be used in a few different ways. So that's why I wanted to share it with you, because it has so many different uses. So it could be used to see if or explain that something is the way that it seems, right? So the first couple of examples, or the first bunch of examples here, are you really going to Australia? Someone could explain that. They could say, yes, I am really going there. You could explain Bob is really leaving tomorrow. Or you could say he is really leaving. That's another way to say it. Okay, second way here. To use emphasis with something. So maybe you want to express or explain something more strongly. A good example, she is really happy. So she's not just happy, she's really happy. So you're emphasizing how happy she is. Right? Or here, down here, I am really hungry. Not just, or sorry, hungry. Maybe I could be. I am really angry. So not just angry, really angry. I mean, we could, instead of angry, we could say hungry. Say that would work, right? And so the adverb really comes from the root word real, right? Because all we did is we just added the suffix onto the end, the ly onto the end of that root word to get really. And here we have to. I wanted to share more examples of this adverb to, and that's too. So it can be used in a few ways too. First way, it can be used to express or explain involvement, participation, or agreement. Okay, so involvement, participation, or agreement, right? So Fred will go fishing too, meaning he will also go fishing. So he's participating. Johnny likes nachos and I like nachos too. Oh, well, you like them? Me too. Me too, I like them too, right? So you're agreeing with how great the nachos are, right? And the second way of using to, it can be used to add emphasis, right? So it's kind of like really in that way, but it's a little different, all right? So here's some examples. So maybe you want to express or explain something more strongly. You could say something like, I am too tired to eat, right? Not just tired, too tired. I'm too tired to eat. So you really want the person not to ask you to eat because you're tired. Next example, the trip shouldn't take too long. So what's being said here is that we probably won't be driving longer than we want to be driving. That's what that sentence is saying. If someone said that to you and you were driving with them and they said, oh, the trip shouldn't take too long, they're saying, yeah, I really don't think we'll be delayed at all. I don't think it's going to take us longer than it's supposed to take us. Okay, so I wanted to share some more examples of how changing the adverb can change the meaning of a sentence. Now, if you wanted to stop this video here and just look at the notes after class, the notes after this video, you can do that, all right? But I wanted to explain these a little bit more for anybody that wanted more information. Let's look at the first set in green here. Janice gently placed the baby in the crib. Janice carefully placed the baby in the crib. Janice slowly placed the baby in the crib. Janice unwillingly placed the baby in the crib. So we're talking about how she placed the baby, right? That's the verb, placed, right? Gently placed, carefully placed, slowly placed, unwillingly placed. So with the first one, gently placed, it's like saying she was treating it nicely. The second one, carefully placed, I mean, you could say she was treating it nicely too, or maybe she didn't want to hurt it. Slowly placed would be like saying maybe there could be lots of reasons why she placed it slowly, but maybe she didn't want to wake it. Or unwillingly placed, that's like saying she didn't want to let it go. Let's look at the second set. He gracefully jumped over the fence. He smoothly jumped over the fence. He swiftly jumped over the fence. He unsuccessfully jumped over the fence. You can see some very different meanings, right? They're all talking about jumping, right? How he jumped, right? Gracefully jumped, that's a good thing. Smoothly jumped, that's a good thing too. Swiftly jumped, that's a good thing. Or unsuccessfully jumped. Well, that's not so good. It means he didn't make it. So the meaning can change. If we change the adverb that we're using, the meaning of the sentence can change. So with the first one, gracefully jumped, that's like saying he was good at jumping. Second one, smoothly jumped. That's also like saying he was good at jumping. Or, he was a smooth jumper. Or, it maybe like it came naturally to him. Swiftly jumped. When we say swiftly, we're thinking about quickness, right? He was a quick jumper or even a fast jumper. He unsuccessfully jumped over the fence, right? So again, he didn't make it. He was not able to jump. Last set here, right? And I hope you're finding these helpful. So let's look at this scenario here. So 3A, the man angrily took the ticket and immediately phoned his lawyer. Or the man furiously took the ticket and quickly phoned his lawyer. Or the man regretfully took the ticket and calmly phoned his lawyer. So see how the situation's different? Or fourth here, the man happily took the ticket and nonchalantly phoned his lawyer. Alright, so this is a different reaction to the situation for this man, right? There's a different way that he took the ticket in each case, and there's a different way that he phoned his lawyer, right? So in the first one, angrily took the ticket, immediately phoned his lawyer. It's like saying he was upset and he called right away. Furiously took the ticket, quickly phoned his lawyer. Not only was he upset, but he was in a hurry to call, right? So immediately is like I'm so mad, let's solve this problem right now. Quickly phoned is like, oh, how dare you give me this ticket, and I'm in such a rush today, and I'm calling, and let's get this done, let's get this over with. And the third one, regretfully took the ticket and calmly phoned his lawyer. So, maybe it's a speeding ticket, right? And he's sort of thinking, oh, yeah, that's too bad. I'll still have to phone my lawyer. You wouldn't really phone a lawyer for a speeding ticket, though, so I'm just trying to think of what that ticket would have been for. But anyways, so he was disappointed in himself, but he did not get upset about it, right? He didn't get mad at the person that gave him that ticket. Or 3D, the man happily took the ticket and nonchalantly phoned his lawyer. So in this case, it's almost like he was happy about it. He wasn't very concerned about calling his lawyer, so maybe he wasn't worried, right? Maybe he thought, oh, this ticket doesn't make any sense, but I'll just give my lawyer a call and we'll have a nice chat about it anyway. Last set of examples. He always finishes the race. He routinely finishes the race. He rarely finishes the race. He never finishes the race. Okay, so there's some differences there. And the first two, the difference is pretty small. It's pretty subtle. So always finishes. So he finishes the race every time. Every time he races, he finishes. Or B, he routinely finishes the race. So he finishes the race on a regular basis. So the difference there is with always, we're imagining that that race is done fairly often, and every time that he does the race, he finishes every time, right? And routinely is a little bit different, right? So maybe with the first one where he always finishes, maybe he does the race every few years, or we don't really know how often he does the race, but we do know that every time he races, he finishes, right? Every time. There's no exception. Every time he races, he finishes. That's what always means. But routinely is sort of like saying on a regular basis. So maybe I think of if you went to competitions a lot, and it was routine for you. It was something that you did on a regular basis. You did that, maybe a few times a month. You went to a competition, or once a month, right? So then routinely would work really well, right? Routinely finishes the race, because every time he goes to a competition, and he's been going to competitions on a regular basis, he routinely finishes it. So he's used to finishing. That's another way to say it. He rarely finishes the race. So he most often does not finish it. That's what rarely means. So most often not. He never finishes the race. That's the opposite of always. Never is the opposite of always. So he does not ever finish the race. No matter how many times he tries, he never finishes it. Right. Well, I hope this video was helpful, and I look forward to the next one.